And on this one, I'm going to ask everybody to separate your thinking into two parts. One of these parts, we must be radical. The first part is, if we trot through a dull 5 years of government in this country, patching up, sticky taping the problems that we've got, at the end of it, people are going to look back and they're going to say, well, here we are, where we started. That's not going to be helpful. And so the radicals among us and those who are, believing that we can do more than this, we have to push on a domestic agenda the whole time. It's going to be an SNP government, let's not kid ourselves. We're going to have to find ways to get pressure on them in any way we can to do these kinds of things. But simultaneously, we have to learn, and incidentally, that's what we did in the referendum. We turned the SNP into a different party through what we did. And that was for the good. And I can tell you, in honesty, most of the members of the SNP, the old members of the SNP that I know, were very glad that we did that, because it gave them a party that they've become more proud of. And that's the second half of what we've got to do. Remember what we did in radical independence. We got a whole bunch of lefties and trots and commies and feminists and trade unionists, and we all got together and barely had a fight in 2 years. Miraculous. That's the second thing we need to remember, because we need to open that outwards. We cannot all go away into our garrets and write plans for a future Scotland based on, as Jim was saying, a lack of understanding of how many oil rigs there are. All come back and say, here we go, we've done it. We must come together and do this collectively. And to do that, we need to find that tolerance and ability to work with people who don't exactly share our views to get forward. Now, I don't want to give too much away because we're still in the middle of, making sure it's all going to work. But we need a forum for bringing everybody back together again. Earlier this year, there were some tentative initial talks of the main people who were organising the Scottish Independence Convention. And we're more or less at the point now where a new constitution is agreed, which will enable it to become a stakeholder organisation which can bring together all the parties and all the groups who are campaigning for independence. We hope that we'll be able to get that together, and talks are happening with SNP, I think, to make sure that they're on board, because we need that. And if we can do that after the Scottish elections, my God, there's so many bloody elections and referendums in Britain these days. Once we get through this election, we can announce properly the launch of a forum which brings RIC and the grassroots campaigns and Women for Independence and the political parties and others back together again. And if we can find a bit of funding to get a couple of officer staff, one to coordinate a campaign and one to coordinate the research that we need to do, then we can set ourselves a proper structure and a proper timetable, not just for talking about why we want independence, but for taking the concrete and solid steps that we need to take if we're going to get there. And so, keep fighting and keep the pressure on the SNP, because it's going to be an SNP government, to be better than their instincts sometimes want them to be, and to take more chances than they might naturally want to take. And in that, yes, stamp your feet and bare your teeth and say, come on, more now. And at the same time, remember the other half of what we were. And remember that if we cannot collectively come together and compromise and negotiate our way to a vision for how we get to this next referendum, then we will drift through the next 5 years without having done the work. And believe me, we don't get there without the work. The work is what makes this happen.